Breaking news tonight, an Iowa judge granted an injunction of parts of Governor Kim Reynolds' education law, preventing educators from facing punishment if some of the law's newest guidelines are not followed. Here are 3 things you need to know tonight. The judge denied placing an injunction on part of the education bill, which requires school districts to report a student's request to change their name or pronouns to their parents. Under the temporary injunction, restrictions on books and classroom instructions on gender identity and sexual orientation cannot be enforced. However, as guidelines regarding pronoun and name change notifications remain unchanged, this part of the law remains unenforceable. New tonight, an Iowa judge, like we said, placed a temporary injunction and part of Governor Kim Reynolds' sweeping education bill. The injunction, like we said, will prevent the removal of certain books and teachers, and they will not be penalized if they decide to keep them on their shelves. Now, those penalties would have been enforced starting on New Year's Day. Governor Reynolds' law prohibits books that describe sex acts from being in schools, libraries. It also bans any curriculum or instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation. Local 5's Megan McPherson has been working hard on this, and she joins us to break down what this temporary injunction means and what comes next. Megan.
Yeah, Larissa, this injunction is the result of 2 separate lawsuits, both against the state of Iowa. In speaking to the plaintiffs from one of those lawsuits today, those who are against the law believe it is unconstitutional and infringes on the First Amendment rights of students. 1 week after the state of Iowa faced off in the courtroom against plaintiffs for 2 separate lawsuits, a judge is blocking part of Governor Reynolds' sweeping education bill. As of today, the Iowa Department of Education cannot enforce the removal of books that they deem age inappropriate or that depict themes related to gender identity or sexual orientation. This means that those books will be able to stay on school library shelves and that teachers will not be penalized if they choose to do so. However, a motion to prohibit teachers from notifying parents about any changes to a student's name or pronouns was denied by the judge. Iowa educators Allison Broder, Mary Bolter, and Daniel Gutman are key plaintiffs in one of the lawsuits considered by the judge. They believe the education law takes away constitutional rights from students.
If we continue to ban books like The Color Purple and other Pulitzer Prize-winning novels, that is not a state that I would like our youth to grow up in.
Some educators like Browder, who teaches 7th grade English in Norwalk, have refused to remove certain books from their shelves.
I just had moral issues with it where I'm like, as a teacher, I refuse to take these books off my shelves. Like, I can't do that morally.
Des Moines special education teacher Dan Gutman also hopes that the injunction will send a message to the state as they head into a new legislative session. Now, this injunction is temporary, which means that a federal judge will further consider the rules of Governor Reynolds' education bill before it can be signed into law. Larissa.
Megan, thank you. And since this decision dropped, our Local 5's Connor O'Neill here has been digging into the injunction details itself. Connor, what can you tell us?
Well, Larissa, it's important to note, first of all, that part of this law is still in effect right now, while other portions are on pause. So basically, this means it's just a partial block at the moment right now. The injunction document itself is 46 pages, so I haven't had a chance to read through the entire thing yet, but we're working on it. We spent the last hour analyzing it as much as possible. So here's the gist. Basically, anything in the law relating to students' gender identity or name in the classroom, that stands as it is. But books, classroom materials, and even lesson plans don't need to be changed for the spring semester. In part of the judge's reasoning, he agreed with the plaintiffs that some of the language surrounding book regulations was too broad, overbroad. That's what he said in the previous hearings, and didn't consider some specific classroom scenarios where these texts are needed. And this whole process, Larissa, I spoke with a law professor as well this whole last hour and a half about the future of both of these lawsuits, and she expects Reynolds to file an appeal to the ruling, so I'll break down that later tonight as we continue our coverage.
This is definitely one we will be keeping tabs on. It's a long one. It's been a long process, and those developments as well. Thank you so much, Connor. Well, to recap, the judge denied placing an injunction on part of the education bill, which requires school districts to report a student's request to change their name or pronouns to their parents under the temporary injunctions. Restrictions on books and classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation cannot be enforced. However, as guidelines regarding pronoun and name change notifications remain unchanged, this part of the law remains unenforceable. And there is a lot to unpack, as we've been saying, on this topic. A long time coming. For more stories on how we got here today and to find a link on the full order of motions document, head to our website at weareiowa.com.